I'm sure you're already in a bit of a holiday mood, if not completely. So, we bring you a deep dive into India's most loved second home destination, Goa. The vibe, the beaches, the partying, the peace, whatever may be your gig, Goa has it all. And the state now has a swanky new international airport at Mopa. What's Goa looking like as we close 2022? Have property prices skyrocketed? Where should you buy if Goa is on your wish list? Joining me today are the men who know Goa inside out. Nibhrant Shah, founder and CEO of Isprava Group, Samir Saran, managing partner, India Sotheby's International Realty, and Shivan Desai Advocate, Shivan Desai Associate. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me today. Shivan, because you are based in Goa, let me ask you, huge buzz about the new airport, and of course, everybody covered it. It's a big infrastructure. How much have real estate prices already skyrocketed or moved up in anticipation of the airport? I mean, it took 9 years, and in the last 1 year, one was just waiting for it to unfold.
Yes, Manisha, first and foremost, thanks for having me on the show. Well, yes, there's been a massive surge in demand when it comes to the area around the airport. The airport is located at this taluka called Perne, which is largely undeveloped. It had a huge potential always, but for reasons of zoning and other limitations, one could not quite tap the potential. So I think after the airport was announced, now that it's commissioned, we have seen a huge surge in demand, and the place by itself around the airport has its touristic importance. The landscape is beautiful, the very scenic beaches. So yes, property prices have shot up, and I would say must have gone up by about 50 to 75%, depending on the proximity to the airport and proximity to the beaches. So my take is 50 to 75%.
Over what period? Shivan, that's a big jump. Are you saying that's happened over a period of 5 years, or it's happened in a shorter period?
No, in a much shorter period. I would say in the last 3 years. It was steadily rising, but in the last 2.5 years, it has risen exponentially. And today we are looking at 50 to 70% increase for sure.
Okay. All right. So that's the area around the airport, and I'll come back to also the fact that 200 acres plus has been earmarked for further development of an airport city around Mopa. But let me come to the rest of Goa, North Goa specifically, which is very close. Samir Saran, how have transactions been? Because I read a report by India Sotheby's, and it said that there's been a big surge in demand for second homes and vacation homes, and Goa remains the most sought after destination. Has that tapered a little bit, or has that gone up since 2021 because of the airport? What are the big trends you see?
So, Nisha, thank you very much. We find that Goa still remains a very strong destination for second home markets. 9 out of 10 queries that we get from a second home perspective specifically is for Goa. And what we've also found is the budget that people have allocated towards Goa has also increased. If I look at it year on year, I would say this year, where perhaps for the first half of the year, we've done perhaps 30 to 50% more business than last year, with a very, very strong pipeline in terms of what we're going to be concluding by the end of this financial year. So it's been tremendous in terms of the demand. It's continued through and throughout.
And prices, Samir, I mean, closer to the airport, I know, because there is a lot of land available and it's agricultural land getting converted into commercial and residential, so the price jump is much more. But the micro markets that we're talking about, North Goa micro markets, how have the price rise been? Has it skyrocketed, or has it been more muted? What's been your experience?
Our experience has been so everything is location specific. Everything is very much driven by what the actual location or what the actual product is, whether it has a sea view, whether it doesn't. But if I'm looking at micro markets, so if we're looking at that stretch, which is very, very attractive, starting from Candolim going up to Mandram, and we're talking about the more popular locations such as Asagaon, Para, all around that region, we find that, Shivan is correct in saying that, prices have gone up by 50 to 70% across the board. Earlier, we would have said that, if we looked at it across a 3-year period, prices would have gone up by 30%. So we've seen plots in locations like Asagaon, where people were earlier asking for 50,000 rupees per square meter. Today, people are asking for 70 to 80,000 rupees per square meter, which is a significant jump.
Wow. Okay, let me come to the gentleman who's taken a big bet with Goa, and Isprava is building beautiful homes and villas in Goa. Nibhrant, looks like the market is hot and getting hotter. Is it getting out of reach and out of control in some ways?
Look, I think here's how we look at it. Goa is a big state, and within Goa, there's certain micro markets. The bet we've taken and the way we look at it is as follows. Number one, at least 30% of our buyers now are primary home buyers. So these are no longer holiday home buyers. These are primary home buyers. These are people leaving Delhi, leaving Mumbai, leaving Hyderabad, leaving Singapore, leaving Hong Kong to come and move to Goa for various reasons, ranging from pollution to everything else. Number two, the way we look at Goa is there's a lot of development and infrastructure being created. So we've spoken about the new airport, but be it schools, be it hospitals, etc.
Nibhrant, what are the micro markets that you would continue to grow in? So what we hear is Candolim to Vagator, and Samir mentioned a few: Porvorim, Para, Asagaon, Saligaon, Anjuna, Siolim, Nerul, Mojim, Arambol. So Goa is actually a whole state. People tend to forget that, and there's a very large coastline. If you were to tell our viewers that look at these markets, if you've got a budget for luxury homes, and these are the markets to look at. If you've got a more modest budget, then look at these micro markets. They're the ones poised for the best growth. What would those be?
Sure. So number one, I'll focus on North Goa, the mythical North Goa, right, which is all north of Panjim. So there are various types of micro markets. You have your old school famous ones, right, which is where the Taj is the anchor and everything's around it, which is your Kandalim, Nerul, Reshmagos, etc., going up to Baga and Anjuna. You then have the newer but shinier kind of locations, which is your Paras, Asagaon, Siolis, etc. I would also start looking on the other side of the highway. Goa has a lot to offer that's non-beach. Many people seem to think Goa should revolve around the beaches, but there are these beautiful villages that are, to the east, that are a little more inland. Moira is one of them. You have Moira, you have Aldona, etc. And you can go further north, closer to the airport as well.
Okay. Shivan, let me come back to you. We keep talking about the fact that Goa infrastructure has really improved. But trust me, I am in touch with a few locals as well. And they're actually saying that we are crumbling with the weight of this whole migration. And like Nibhrant says, people are now looking at making it their primary city or primary state to live in, not just a second home. The other infrastructure like roads, etc., have they kept up, or is it just a shiny new airport and post-COVID impact that Goa is seeing?
Well, I must say that you are right. The infrastructure has not kept pace with the pace of the development. A lot of the, Nibhrant mentioned a few places, the Asagaons and the Vagators, but they don't really have the basic infrastructure. So that's where I think the balance is not struck. It's been indiscriminate thus far for the last, 5-6 years, when there has been an actual spike. And there is an immediate need for regulation so that at least you have the basic infrastructure in place, which can then cater to this ever-increasing demand. So now it's just gone ahead indiscriminately, a very much unplanned development. Of course, great development, great in terms of opportunities. But henceforth, I don't think it can take more without there being a planned development in these parts of Goa. Mm-hmm. And infrastructure, there needs to be a lot of effort at the end of the government to make sure that the infrastructure is at par with the scale of development.
With the scale of development, all right. Samir, and so we're talking mostly about North Goa, and then of course inching closer to the airport. Around the airport, we will see a lot of development. But again, coming back, and at the cost of repeating myself, Goa is a state. South Goa is very beautiful. Has there been that kind of a spectacular move in South Goa? Because, there are more middle-class humans like us who would like to buy more modestly priced homes. Are they available anywhere in Goa? maybe south of the older, south of Panjim, let's say?
So, Manisha, in this regard, I think Goa has something to offer everybody. I think, and I think addressing one point around, I think social infrastructure needs to follow from the other infrastructure that is being implemented. So, from an airport perspective, etc. And I do believe that there are opportunities, and I do believe that South Goa will have a role to play. I think where the ecosystems have been created have been more around North Goa. And so therefore you find more vibrancy, and therefore the demand that we see at least coming in has been around the North Goa market. But there are people looking there, and I think there are opportunities to be captured there. And I think there will be a movement towards South Goa. But I'll stress on the fact that I think the social infrastructure, as Shivan has said, has to follow with all the other investments. And, we're aware that, as part of the 2023 budget, the government had allocated 500 crores towards development of urban infrastructure in Goa as a whole, and not specifically the north, including waste management and other things. So I think there needs to be a catch-up. But yes, in terms of product and availability, there is, though south is still not as developed as the north in terms of both attention and therefore development, therefore less opportunities of investment.
Less opportunities of investment in South Goa, but 500 crores doesn't seem like a big number to me at all. Looking at the number of people who are migrating, I think the government definitely needs to bump up the budget. 500 crores is really a very tiny amount. Nibhrant, they say it's easy to buy in Goa. So you go today, you will find something in your budget, but when you try and sell it, it's an illiquid market.
Manisha, I think I'm going to disagree with that, and I'll tell you, I'll tell you why. And I think there is a huge demand-supply mismatch, and the secondary sales that we see, at least for our brand, are significant. It's highly liquid, and it's definitely at prices much higher than people bought them at.
Okay, so
Samir would be better.
Here's my question to you. Here's my question
Sure.
to you. What kind of property price appreciation are you looking at going forward? Or do you tell your customers they're likely to get, looking at the demand-supply equation? And what are the rental yields right now?
Sure. I think, let me take the first point, right? I think the first point, the 50 to 70% will continue in the short term. I still think there's a massive demand-supply gap. There will then be some level of steady state growth, which will of course be significantly below the 50, 70%. On the rental yield, that completely varies. Our homeowners see net rental yields starting at 9% going down to anywhere between 4 and 5%. But that completely depends on what you purchase and how you rent it out.
So it is 4 to 5%. That's the number I wanted to hear, because it is better than at least what you're getting in cities. Though I hear even Mumbai and Gurugram has completely gone ballistic when it comes to rental yields. And when I say ballistic, it's actually become normal now. It should be around 7 to 8%, not below that. But we'll take a while to get there. Shivan, last question to you. It's not, people have had mixed experiences in buying in Goa. There are legal entanglements, especially if you want to buy a heritage property or land. What are the things that you would say as an advocate one needs to be very careful of?
Well, first and foremost, of course, I can take it in different parts. One is the title issue. Then we have the development regulations and restrictions. So it can be categorized in different forms. But as far as you're looking at title, then, there are title impediments, and one is to ensure that the documentation goes back in point of time to the Portuguese regime. There are specific regulations with regard to heritage homes. There are certain homes identified as heritage structures. If you are familiar with Goa, there is a Latin Quarter in Panjim. So there are restrictions in development, whereby you really can just repair to the bare minimum, and you have to maintain the facade and the overall look of the place.
And even coastal regulations, right, Shivan? Sorry, I forgot to ask you that. I mean, how close can you go to the beach? There are very strict rules now.
No, there are extremely strict rules. So I would say that before you venture into an open land development, I would say that you should first look at the regulations and where you fit in. There are CRZ regulations, there are forest restrictions, then there is the heritage home restrictions. and then there are slope restrictions.
I could have this conversation for a little while more because it is an interesting one, and everybody at least hopes to, or a lot of people in India hope to have a home in Goa. But we have to wrap out here. We've run out of time. So Samir, Nibhrant and Shivan, thank you very much for joining me today. And a very, very happy holiday season to all of you.
I wish you the same. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be back in a moment to discuss the progress that the special fund for completing stalled projects, the Swami Fund, has made in 2022, and what does it hope to accomplish in the coming year. That's another important conversation. Stay with us.